What if I told you the greatest enemy holding you back isn't the world, isn't your circumstances, and isn't the people around you? It's the reflection staring back at you in the mirror. Until you change the way you see yourself, nothing in your life will ever truly change. The truth is, every single day when you wake up, the real fight will start when you step outside your door. It starts before your feet even hit the ground. The toughest opponent you'll ever face isn't the person competing against you at work. It isn't your boss breathing down your neck. It isn't the people who doubt you, laugh at you, or even the ones who try to stop you. The toughest opponent you'll ever face is the one that stares back at you in the mirror. That's the battle that determines whether you move forward or stay stuck exactly where you are. And the reason this battle is so fierce is because it's not about fists. It's about focus. It's not about who's stronger than you out there. It's about whether you're stronger than the excuses you tell yourself in here. Think about it. Most people lose before they even begin because their mindset is already defeated. They wake up telling themselves, I can't do it. I'm not enough. I'll never be successful. And before the world even has a chance to test them, they've already quit on themselves. That's why I'm telling you, your greatest enemy is not the outside world. Your greatest enemy is the inner voice that keeps trying to convince you to settle. If you don't silence that voice, it will rob you of every dream you've ever had. The world will always throw obstacles at you, but the only reason those obstacles can stop you is because of how you see yourself in relation to them. If you see yourself as weak, every challenge will feel like a mountain. If you see yourself as unworthy, every opportunity will feel like it belongs to somebody else. But when you change that vision, when you start to see yourself as capable, powerful, worthy, suddenly those same obstacles turn into stepping stones. The outside doesn't change, but you do. And when you change, the fight shifts in your favor. So understand this. The real fight isn't out there. It's in here. It's in the way you think, the way you believe, the way you look at you. Because once you win the battle within, once you conquer that negative self-image, there is nothing on the outside that can stand against you. Too many people are living in chains that don't even exist anymore. They're carrying around the weight of every mistake, every wrong turn, every time they fell short, like it's their permanent identity. But the truth is, your past is not a prison. It's a classroom. Everything you went through, every failure you thought would break you, every disappointment that cut deep was never meant to define you. It was meant to shape you. Yet so many people can't move forward because they keep replaying the same film in their head over and over, reminding themselves of who they used to be instead of who they're becoming. You've got to stop looking at your past as a verdict and start looking at it as a lesson. When you treat it like a life sentence, you're sentencing yourself to relive the same pain again and again. But when you treat it as education, you can extract the wisdom, the strength, the resilience that came out of it and use that to fuel your future. You've been through enough to prove that you're still standing. That means you're stronger than the thing that tried to take you out. And if you're still standing, you're still capable of rising higher. Don't let yesterday steal the possibilities of today. The danger of staying stuck in your past is that it blinds you to the opportunities sitting right in front of you. You're so focused on who you were that you don't even notice what you could be. That job you want, that dream you've been holding, that new chance, it's right there. But you won't reach for it because you've convinced yourself you're disqualified. The truth is, you're not disqualified. You're more prepared now than ever because you've already been through the fire. Your story doesn't end with what went wrong. Your story can begin again with what you choose to do now. Every scar on your life is evidence that you survived something others couldn't. Those scars don't make you less. They make you more. They make you wise. They make you resilient. They make you dangerous to failure because you know how to get back up. And when you decide to stop letting your past dictate your identity, you finally give yourself permission to build the future you deserve. One of the biggest reasons people never step into greatness is because they're waiting for someone else to confirm that they're good enough. They're waiting for family to clap for them, waiting for friends to co-sign their dreams, waiting for a boss or a mentor to say, you've got what it takes. And while they sit there waiting, time is passing, opportunities are slipping, and life is moving forward without them. You cannot afford to live your life on pause because you're hoping somebody else gives you permission to start. Nobody is going to hand you greatness. Nobody is going to put success in your lap with a smile and say, "Here, it's your turn." You have to claim it for yourself. If you're dependent on outside validation, you'll never feel secure because the truth is people are inconsistent. One day they'll cheer for you, the next day they'll criticize you. And if your confidence is tied to their approval, you'll always be on an emotional roller coaster. You don't need permission to chase your dream. You need vision strong enough to move even when nobody else sees what you see. When you wake up with clarity about who you are and where you're going, you don't have to beg anyone to believe in you because your actions will prove it over time. Think about how much potential is wasted because people wait for recognition before they work. They want to pause before they put in the effort. But it doesn't work that way. The world rewards those who take initiative, those who step out even when the crowd is silent. You can't be afraid to look crazy. You can't be afraid to look alone because visionaries always see the finish line before anyone else even knows there's a race. That's what separates people who make history from people who watch it. Stop giving other people the authority to determine your value. Stop asking them if you're capable. Stop asking them if you're worthy. Stop asking them if you're ready. Deep down, you already know the answer. Every breath in your body is proof that you've still got purpose left inside you. And the moment you stop waiting on permission and start walking in your own power, you'll realize you never needed their validation to begin with. The picture you carry of yourself in your mind sets the boundaries for everything you will ever do. If you see yourself as small, you will play small. If you see yourself as average, you will settle for average. The way you view yourself becomes the thermostat that regulates the level of effort you give, the risks you're willing to take, and the dreams you're willing to chase. Too many people don't fail because they aren't talented. They fail because the image they hold of themselves won't allow them to even try. They convince themselves before the world ever does that they aren't capable. And that belief becomes a cage that keeps them locked in a life far below what they were created for. When you look at your reflection and see someone who is broken, someone who is weak, someone who isn't enough, then every opportunity will feel too big for you. You'll hesitate. You'll second guess. You'll shrink back, not because you can't do it, but because your self-image whispers, that's not for you. And as long as that picture doesn't change, you will keep sabotaging yourself no matter how many chances come your way. It's not the opportunity that's missing. It's the belief in yourself that's missing. But the opposite is also true. When you begin to see yourself as capable, when you start to carry yourself as worthy, when you believe you're equipped with what it takes, something inside of you shifts. You stop running from challenges and start running toward them. You stop seeing obstacles as walls and start seeing as tests that you were built to pass. The very same situations that once looked impossible suddenly look like stepping stones, not because they changed, but because you changed the way you saw yourself in relation to them. The limits you are living with right now are not out there in the world. They're inside the story you keep telling yourself about who you are. If you want to break free, you've got to rewrite that story. Stop saying, "I'm just average," and start declaring, "I'm built for more." Stop saying, "I can't handle it," and start declaring, "I'm ready for it." Because the ceiling of your life will always rise or fall to match the vision you have of yourself. The words you speak over yourself carry power. Every time you open your mouth, you're either building yourself up or tearing yourself down. Too often people don't even realize that the constant negative talk they throw at themselves is shaping their reality. They say things like, "I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'll never make it." And then they wonder why they feel stuck, why they keep falling short, why life never seems to move in their favor. It's because their own words are poisoning their belief system. If you feed your mind doubt long enough, you'll eventually live out that doubt without even noticing it. You've got to start speaking life into yourself. Words aren't just sounds, they're seeds. And whatever seeds you plant in your mind will eventually grow into the life you live. If you keep planting seeds of fear, seeds of insecurity, seeds of weakness, don't be surprised when your reality reflects that. But if you begin to plant seeds of strength, seeds of confidence, seeds of discipline, you'll start to see a different kind of harvest. You can literally rewire the way you think by changing the way you talk to yourself. Every great achievement starts with belief, and belief is fueled by language. If you tell yourself you can, you give your mind permission to find a way. If you tell yourself you can't, you've already lost before you've begun. That's why affirmations are not just cliches. They're reminders, they're declarations, they're blueprints for the future you want to create. When you wake up and say, I'm capable, I'm focused, I'm built for this, you begin to condition your brain to look for evidence of that truth. Think about how quick you are to encourage others when they're struggling, how easy it is to tell someone else they're strong, they're worthy, they're going to make it. But when it comes to yourself, you don't extend that same energy. Imagine if you turned that encouragement inward, if you became your own biggest supporter instead of your harshest critic. That shift in language would begin to change how you carry yourself, how you approach challenges, and how you recover from setbacks. What you say about yourself is what you begin to believe, and what you believe is what you begin to live. Real change doesn't begin with the numbers in your bank account, the kind of car you drive, or the position you hold at work. Real change begins with the way you see yourself. Too many people are convinced that if they just get the right job, if they just move to the right city, if they just have a little more money, everything will be different. But the truth is, you can change all the circumstances on the outside and still feel empty if the picture you hold of yourself on the inside never changes. You could move to a bigger house and still feel small. You could land a better job and still feel unworthy. You could earn more money and still feel broke in your spirit, because the external will always follow the internal. When you start to see yourself as powerful, something in you shifts. You begin to carry yourself differently. You make decisions with confidence instead of hesitation. You face challenges with courage instead of fear. The same situation once intimidated you no longer has the same power over you, not because it changed, but because you changed. The transformation begins the moment you stop identifying with weakness and start identifying with strength. It's not about faking it. It's about choosing to believe in the identity that's already within you. If you tell yourself you're disciplined, you start making disciplined choices. If you tell yourself you're focused, you begin eliminating distractions. If you tell yourself you're unstoppable, you stop quitting every time it gets hard. The way you define yourself internally dictates the actions you take externally, and those actions create the results you see in your life. This is why some people can go through the toughest storms and still come out stronger, while others collapse under the same pressure. The difference isn't the weight of the storm, it's the strength of their self-image. One person sees themselves as fragile and they break. The other sees themselves as resilient and they endure. That's the power of perspective. You don't have to wait for everything around you to change. You don't have to wait for perfect timing, perfect resources, or perfect conditions. The change you've been looking for starts when you change the way you view yourself. What you say consistently becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes how you live. Words are not just sounds that pass through the air. They are instructions you give to your mind, and your mind carries them out, whether they are good or bad. When you tell yourself you're not ready, your brain starts looking for excuses to prove you right. When you tell yourself you'll never succeed, your actions begin to align with failure. But when you speak strength, when you declare confidence, when you affirm that you are capable, your mind begins to search for ways to back that up. Your words literally create the blueprint for your reality. Most people don't realize how destructive their inner dialogue is. They rehearse their limitations more than their strengths. They say things like, I'll never be as good as them, or I always mess up, without even noticing that they're reinforcing a negative identity day after day. It's no wonder they keep getting the same results. Life has no choice but to echo what they've been speaking. But the moment you change the narrative, the moment you begin to plant words of belief, focus, and determination, the atmosphere of your life begins to shift. Your words are like a compass that directs your steps. If your language is filled with doubt, you'll always walk in circles of hesitation. If your language is filled with fear, you'll always retreat when it's time to push forward. But if your language is filled with power, you'll start to move with certainty. If your language is filled with vision, you'll start chasing bigger goals. Speak what you want to see, not what you're afraid might happen. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to give your weaknesses more attention than your strengths. It's about making sure the loudest voice in your head is the one that believes in you, not the one that tears you down. The greatest leaders, the greatest achievers, the people who rise above their circumstances all have one thing in common. They control the narrative they tell themselves. And once you learn to control that narrative, once you understand that your words have the power to shape your world, you'll realize that the life you're building starts with the language you choose every single day. Too many people spend their lives trapped in the prison of their past pain. They keep replaying old mistakes, old heartbreaks, old failures, as if living in them again and again will somehow make them disappear. But all it really does is keep them chained to a story that no longer serves them. When you constantly look at yourself through the eyes of your pain, you carry shame, guilt, and regret into every new opportunity. You sabotage your own progress because deep down you believe you are still the same broken person you once were. And as long as that belief stays in place, you will keep shrinking your future down to the size of your yesterday. But there is another way to see yourself. Instead of looking at your reflection and seeing nothing but scars, start looking at those scars as proof that you survived. Every hardship you've been through is evidence of your strength. Every failure you recovered from is proof of your resilience. The pain didn't come to define you, it came to refine you. If you stop staring at it like a wound and start treating it like a lesson, you'll realize it made you tougher, wiser, and more equipped than before. Living through potential means refusing to be defined by the worst chapters of your story. It means lifting your eyes from the ground of what happened and fixing them on the horizon of what can still happen. Potential is the seed of greatness inside you that hasn't bloomed yet, and it cannot bloom as long as you keep watering the soil of regret. Every time you tell yourself, I can't because of what I went through, you're suffocating that seed. But every time you declare, I can because of what I went through, you're feeding it and you're giving yourself permission to grow. You have to choose whether you're going to be the prisoner of your pain or the proof of your potential. The choice is always yours. Pain is real, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Your potential is waiting, and it's louder than your past if you'll give it a chance to speak. The moment you shift your focus from what broke you to what's possible for you, your life starts to move in an entirely new direction. There comes a point in your life when you have to stop accepting the old script that's been handed to you. For years, you may have been living under labels, opinions, and limitations that were never even yours to begin with. Maybe someone told you that you weren't smart enough. Maybe life taught you that you weren't strong enough. Maybe your mistakes convinced you that you weren't worthy enough. And without realizing it, you started to repeat that story until it became your truth. But you don't have to keep reciting those same lines. You have the power to flip the script, to write a new narrative, to tell a new story about who you are and where you're going. The danger of holding on to the old narrative is that it blinds you to new opportunities. You keep trying to step into the future with words and beliefs that belong to your past. You keep approaching new doors with the same old mindset that once kept you locked out. But when you decide to rewrite the story, everything begins to change. Suddenly, the challenges that used to intimidate you become the arenas where you prove your strength. The setbacks that once felt like the end of your journey become the very chapters that give your new story its power. Flipping the script doesn't mean ignoring what happened to you. It means redefining what it means. Instead of saying, I failed, you begin saying, I learned. Instead of saying, I was broken, you start saying, I was built. Instead of saying, I'm not enough, you declare, I'm more than capable. The facts may be the same, but the interpretation changes everything. The meaning you attach to your story is what determines whether it holds you back or pushes you forward. Every time you tell yourself the new story, you reinforce a new identity. Every time you speak those new words, you strengthen a new belief. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes until one day you no longer identify with who you were. You begin to fully step into who you were meant to be. Your life is a book and you hold the pen. You don't have to let the past chapters dictate the ending. You can turn the page, you can flip the script, and you can write the kind of story that inspires not only you, but everyone who reads it. The way you see yourself is the foundation for every choice you make and every path you take. If you continue to carry the same vision of yourself that was shaped by doubt, failure, and insecurity, then you will continue to repeat the same cycles. But the moment you shift that vision, the moment you decide to see yourself through the lens of possibility instead of limitation, your life begins to transform. Change doesn't happen because the world suddenly becomes easier. Change happens because you finally step into the power that's been inside you the whole time. When you start seeing yourself differently, you stop settling. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You stop tolerating relationships, jobs, and environments that keep you stuck. You raise your standards, not because the world demanded it, but because you demanded it of yourself. The new vision of who you are will not allow you to keep living at the same level you once accepted. That's why it feels uncomfortable at first, because your old identity is fighting to survive. But if you hold on to that new image long enough, eventually your actions, habits, and results will rise to meet it. This shift doesn't just affect how you feel about yourself, it affects everything connected to you. When you see yourself as strong, you begin to take bold steps that inspire others. When you see yourself as disciplined, you create routines that elevate your productivity. When you see yourself as worthy, you attract opportunities that match your value. Life responds to the picture you project, and once that picture changes, so does the energy you bring into every room and every situation. The transformation you're looking for won't come from waiting on circumstances to align perfectly. It will come from deciding that you will no longer be defined by who you used to be. It will come from choosing to rewrite the story in your head and live according to the new version of you. That shift in perspective will ripple through every area of your life, your relationships, your career, your health, your dreams. The moment you change the way you see yourself is the moment everything around you starts to change with it. So hear me. Your life doesn't transform when the world changes. It transforms when you change the way you see yourself. The moment you choose to believe you're capable, worthy, and unstoppable, you unlock the door to the future you've been waiting for.